Okay, when working on your steering box on your Model A, there's a certain sequence that you need to go through when you're adjusting this. You know, and you before even looking at your steering box, you want to make sure all your linkages are nice and tight and you don't have any looseness in them. But once you're ready to check your clearances on your steering box, what you want to think of is start from the engine side, middle, and then frame side. So the first part that you will adjust is on the back side here, and there's a little lock nut and a flat tip screwdriver that you adjust the sector shaft. How this steering column comes down and has a spiral gear on it, and it fits and moves this shaft forward. It rotates it this way, which brings this forward and back. So that first you want to adjust this one on the back side, then you move to the column adjustment. This is the steering column shaft adjustment, which is how much play is on the thrust bearing going onto the steering shaft here. So you want to adjust that one second. And then the final one is over here on the frame side. There's 4 bolts and nuts that you have to loosen. But you can see on this top one, which if you have your fenders on, it's much harder to see this, but this top one has a nut, but it also has another secondary nut, which actually has a cam in there. And when you adjust the second nut, it adjusts the cam and it adjusts the amount of lash in your sector here. So when you pull this, and this one's actually gone through and been pretty tight, but I'll go through it again. But you shouldn't have any wobble when you pull this in and out. And when you turn your steering wheel, you should see almost immediate movement forward and back on the shaft. So that's what you're looking for when you're adjusting this. And of course, you want to check your fluid level in this. This is the same fluid that goes in your transmission and your rear end. The Ford spec 600W. So you don't want to put this out. Looks like a grease fitting. You don't want to put grease in there. You want to put the gear oil. So let's first check on the lash on the sector shaft on the back side here, and we'll adjust it first. And then you have to go onto the back side and adjust the lash on the, and it's gonna be very hard to see. Okay, now we're looking at the back side of the 2-tooth steering box on this 29. And let's see back here, there's a slot for a slotted screwdriver and a lock nut. You take a 3/4 inch wrench, loosen it up, and then take a slotted screwdriver and turn it. And then you move the steering wheel back and forth to see how much play is in it. That's very tight. I'm going to get out of that. And tighten that lock nut back down. Okay, we got the back side here, shaft adjusted. Now we're going to look at the steering column shaft adjustment, which is up here on top. So we'll adjust this and get any looseness or play in it and get rid of it. Okay, this is a 2-tooth steering box. So to adjust the steering, you put a 5/8 on this lower lock nut and loosen it up, and then you'll be tightening. She's all the way tight, so I think it's somewhere else in the box. So to adjust the steering column shaft, you use a 5/8 wrench, put it on there, loosen the lock nut, and then you put a 9/16 on the bolt itself and loosen it. And then while turning your steering wheel, should be able to tighten the thrust bearing on it. And tighten your lock nut. And then the third adjustment is over here on the frame side. So for the third adjustment, the final adjustment, you need to loosen all 4 of these bolts on the box on the sector housing here. And these are sort of hard to get to. And I'm not going to be able to get like a socket wrench in there. And you'll have to loosen all 4 of them to be able to make this adjustment, because what you're doing is you're actually shifting it. There's another one down here at the bottom. These are all fairly loose now. Then you take your 7/8 wrench and you put it on this cam nut and adjust it. Now tighten the other 3 nuts, and then your steering box should be adjusted so you get rid of any looseness in the steering box. Like I said at the beginning, check all your linkages and make sure, and then once you've checked them, go around with the grease gun and grease all your fittings while you're at it and while you're checking this. Okay, if your steering is very tight, and it can be actually too tight, and it'll cause excessive wear on the worm and the sector in your steering box. So what you want to do is go back and check your adjustments. So to loosen this sector housing, there's 4 nuts, and you loosen the 4 nuts. They're pretty hard to get to. You almost just have to use a wrench, not a socket wrench or anything like that. Once they're adjusted or loosened, you can put a 7/8 on there and adjust the cam. And I don't know if you can see that in the amount of play in the steering wheel now. And if I adjust it and tighten it down a little bit. Adjust to where you don't have much play, and then tighten your nut sector housing nuts back down, and there's 4 of them. All right. Okay, one of the things that you need to check for with your distributor is your linkage from your spark advance over here to your steering column. That instead of bending the rods, you actually can turn the steering column shaft. And what you do is you loosen this clamp right here, And you can see right now I got it loose where I can rotate it, get to where the steering, the spark advance goes all the way retard, and make sure you put your lever all the way retard, and then when you move your lever the other direction, it should go all the way to the other side of the slot on your distributor housing. So you want to make sure you got full swing on that, and your rod should be straight. You just shouldn't have to bend them. But once you get it set right where you need to, and you can rotate this any place you need it, and then just a couple of 1/2 wrenches, and tighten it in place. And now it won't rotate anymore, and your rods, your timing rod should be accurate. You just also want to make sure in your distributor that you're getting the full swing on your top plate to where it goes all the way and hits the distributor housing, and then when you go retard, it's all the way one way, and advance, when it pulls it, it's able to pull it all the way until it hits the housing. So just keep an eye on that, and adjust your column if you need to. So this is on a 2-tooth steering column. The 7-tooth, this is all fixed, and you'll have to just bend your rods or cut and weld the rods or put a little adjustable linkage on it. But on a 7-tooth, this is all fixed and welded and part of the housing, and you have fewer adjustments on a 7-tooth housing, and which is one of the reasons Ford switched late 28, early 29. He switched to the 2-tooth housing and 2-tooth sector, and it has many more adjustments. You have your shaft adjustment on the back, your steering column shaft adjustment here, and your adjustment here. So the 2-tooth was a large upgrade, but you also can rotate the column on them, and there's just a lot of features that were an upgrade from the 7-tooth to the 2-tooth. Okay, so now we got all three of them adjusted, and through the movement of the steering wheel, just any slight movement, you don't want it super tight because then it'll bind on you, but you have your movement of your steering wheel will move your pitman arm. So then once you have this set up right, and you check all your tie rod ends, your pitman arm, your connections, all your wear joints, and also make sure that you get out and grease these to make sure that they don't wear any more than necessary. But that shouldn't cure any looseness in your steering column and your steering linkages. If you're still having problems, then you really need to look at your tires, and your axle adjustment and your toe in, and make sure that they're all in alignment. All right, everybody, take care.